welcome to another episode of the Marc Medley Show. And I am proud to report tonight, as we kick off the show this evening, that you can catch the Marc Medley Show on a lot of different sites. In order to download that on your mobile device, or if you want to listen on your desktop, you can go to, of course, Spreaker, which is the podcast home. But now you can also find the podcast on iHeart. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can find the podcast on TuneIn. And you can find the podcast on YouTube. So whichever venue you choose, you can find the Marc Medley Show on. It's just a matter of going into that particular site and keywording my name, Marc, M-A-R-C, last name Medley, or the Marc Medley Show under podcasts. So whichever one you choose, whether it be Spreaker, whether it be TuneIn, whether it be Apple Music, whichever one you choose, I am now there, and I am thrilled about that. Tonight's episode is the misperception of the leader's seat. And the reason I wanted to talk a little bit about that is because, for one, when I'm not podcasting and hosting a radio show, I'm the principal of the school. I'm the leader of a school building. And I've also served in leadership roles in my fraternity as well as my church, as well as in other organizations. And I know many times there are people who look at the leadership seat and they think that's an easy job. They think, oh, I'm sure if Mark can do that, I can do that. I'm sure if Sally can do that, I can do that. I'm sure if Barack can do that, I can do that. And a lot of times people get caught up in that. And truth be told is, in many instances, if something looks easy, it's not. That means a lot of work has been put into it, and that's why it looks easy. But the onlooker, or the person looking at the leader, has absolutely no clue what it takes. I have a sign in my office that says I get paid for three things. I get paid for vision, I get paid for mission, and I get paid to make those hard decisions that no one else wants to make. And the latter holds true more so even than the first two. As the leader, you have to make some hard decisions. A lot of times the decisions that the leader has to make, they're not personal, they're business. And yet they have to make those. And in some instances, the two may cross. Sometimes the decision that's made may impact someone that the leader knows personally. Not an easy job. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to be the pastor. Everybody wants to be the principal. Everybody wants to be the teacher. Everybody wants to be whoever is the head of the organization, the CEO, the chief executive officer. Everyone wants to be the lead, but they have no idea what it means to walk in the leader's shoes. And that's what we're talking about here tonight when I say the misperceptions of the leader's seat. A lot of times folks look at the leader and they think anybody can do it. Oh, it doesn't take anything to be the leader. You get to dictate and tell people what to do. Because see, that's what leadership is not. Being the leader or leadership is not about dictating and just telling others what to do for the sake of telling others what to do. That's not leadership. That's dictatorship. Two different things. But many people confuse that. They think that whoever sits in the leadership seat, that the only thing the leader has to do is sit there and give orders. And that's about as far from the truth as possible. Now, the leader does direct, and a good leader listens to his or her people. And then they make the final call. Because at the end of the day, the leader has to make the final call, or ought to make the final call. Anything with two heads is freakish. There's only one leader, whether that's in the household, whether that's in the job setting, whether it's in corporate America, whether it's in the church. There's only one leader. Now, that's not to diminish the role of everyone else who works with the leader. Matter of fact, a very good leader really doesn't do anything unless they consult with their right or left hand, left leg, left foot, whatever you want to call it. because that's the difference between the dictatorship and the leadership. My personal style, I will listen to everybody's views. I will gather all the data. I will listen to what whoever is working with and I'm supporting, whether it's my vice principals or whomever it may be. I will listen. But at the end of the day, I have to make the final call as the leader. That's the responsibility and the role of the leader. Another thing a good leader does is they're accountable and they take responsibility, whether something's good or bad. Because in the leadership seat, you're either the hero or the goat. The hope is that you're the hero more times than you are the goat. That's the hope. That's the goal. But in some instances, that's not the case. In some instances, you're the goat more than you are the hero. But all of that comes along with leadership. The other thing is we've got to take a look at in terms of leadership is the motive behind the person who wants to be the leader. I'm always very leery of someone who is jumping up and down, raising their hand, hollering, yelling, pick me, pick me, pick me. Because as I said, going back to what leadership is all about, the person on the outside looking in, or the person looking from down to up, or looking at, however you want to phrase that, the person looking at the leader and in their mind and in their spirit and their heart, they think I can do that. Like I said, they have no idea what it takes to do what the leader does. And sometimes the motive is off in terms of, in their mind, they just want to be the dictator. They want to be in the spotlight. He or she wants to be the big cheese. They want to be the big boss. They want to be the one that's telling everybody what to do, not realizing that that's not leadership. That's not what being in the leader's seat is all about. That's not what being in the principal seat is all about. That's not what being in the pastor's seat is all about. That's not what is being in the CEO seat is all about. It's not about just being in the limelight, being in the spotlight. It's not about giving orders and being the dictator. That's not what leadership is about. But I think many think that's what it is. Even the president, before I even had put this together, or shall I say, I had already put together in my mind that this was going to be today's podcast, and lo and behold, the president in his speech said something along the lines of, he had always been told that the decisions that you make in the Oval Office, like it's so much different to be sitting in the seat in the Oval Office, and I'm phrasing. I would have to look up the exact words that he says. As a matter of fact, I put it in the description. But he said something along the lines that once you get in the Oval Office, the decisions you make behind that desk, at that point, it's totally different than whenever you're now John Q. Citizen, and it's real easy to play Monday morning quarterback. It's real easy to sit back on Monday morning and talk about what you would have done as the quarterback on Sunday. It's real easy to say, if I were president, this is what I would do. Truth of the matter is, you don't know what you would do because you don't know what the situation is. If I were the pastor, this is what I would do. If I was the CEO, this is what I would do. If I was the principal, this is what I would do. The truth of the matter is, everybody's not cut out to be the leader. That's why whomever is in the leadership role is in the leadership role. So there are many misperceptions of the leader's seat. One is everybody thinks they can do it. 2, many think it's easy. 3, they think it's a dictatorship. It's about bossing people around, telling others what to do, when to do, how to do. And some of that is somewhat true from the standpoint, that's after you've put a plan together and everybody understands what the plan is. And then the leader directs and guides. The person in the leadership seat should be directing and guiding. Now, the other piece of that is, just because you're in the leadership seat does not mean that you can't get your hands dirty and get in on the ground level as well. I tell people all the time, there is not one thing I would ask anyone that's working with me to do that I am not willing to do myself. If I were to ask someone to pick up a piece of paper as they walk down the hallway, I have no problem with picking up a piece of paper as I walk down the hallway. If there's anything that I would ask anybody to do, if we're working on a special project and we need to stay a couple of hours late or another hour late, I don't have a problem staying an hour late. Whatever it is that I'm willing to ask someone that's working with me to do, I am willing to do. And a leader must be willing to do that as well. It's not about the leader just sitting in the office. It's not about the leader just sitting in the Oval Office. It's not about the leader just sitting in the principal's office or sitting in the pastor's office or sitting in the CEO's office. The leader has to get out there and be willing to do things as well. Another thing about leadership, usually your best leaders were good followers. Usually, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, those that are in the leadership positions were pretty good followers when they had to follow. That's, for the most part, how they got to the leadership position. So there are a lot of misperceptions out there of the leader's seat, and this show this evening or morning or wherever you might be listening to or when you might be listening to it is to hopefully clarify some of that. Nothing new, nothing that anyone didn't know, but again, the purpose of both of my podcasts as well as the blog, the Critical Thinker podcast, the Marc Medley Show, the Critical Thinker blog, all of those are to provoke thought. Nothing new. Might be something you've heard before, but now that you heard me say it, it came to mind and you said, I never thought about that. It didn't occur to me that way. So for those of you who are aspiring to be leaders, there's nothing wrong with the aspiration. But please do not take on the attitude of, if Mark can do that, I can do that. If Raheem can do that, I can do that. If Joanne can do that, I can do that. If Grace can do that, I can do that. It may not be as simple as it's seen. Now remember the three things. You get paid for vision, you get paid for mission, and you get paid, more importantly, for making the very hard decisions that no one else wants to make. This is the Marc Medley Show. Again, you can catch us on iTunes. Now they call it Apple Podcasts. You can catch us on TuneIn. You can catch us on YouTube. And of course, you can catch us right here on Spreaker. Thanks for listening. We'll be together again.